possibilities there are going forward. Let me just look for our documents. Sumiso, please talk.
Okay, so I will ask a question. So, from the earlier presentations on the population, the issue of population dynamics on the environmental issues. So, how then we go about ensuring the equitable balance between the increasing population and the environmental resources available at the moment? So, since we can just look at the UN projections, which says around 2050, the population will increase at around 9.5 billion to 10 billion. So already we have the resources, the natural resources that are depleting. So how then we ensure the equitable balance between these two, the increasing population and the environmental resources available? So I'll just pose this question to everyone who can answer.
Thank you very much, Sumiso. That is a very relevant question following on Prof. Midgley's presentation. So I think what I understood from what Guy was saying is that the world population is growing as a whole, but in many developed countries, in most countries around the world, populations are actually about to decline because they have successfully curtailed their population growth. And what is happening now is that there is negative population growth, or the threat of negative growth, which in the end will mean that the world population will stabilize and could even decline. That's what I understood. Yes, ICT 2025. You have a very 4IR name on your profile. Do you want to talk to us? ICT 2025?
It's Dr. Madisha.
Okay.
I would like to try and answer the question about the increasing population. Like the previous speaker, I have explained that once you don't use IT, it's either IT will replace you. The countries that use IT in farming and in production, they are able to produce a lot of food. Look at China and other developed countries that have used IT to make their life. China have a lot of the massive population, but they are able to produce a lot of food through their farming that they have adapted to the climate, and using IT adapted to the climate, have also adapted they can even produce some of the fruits that we knew them to be green, like apple, to produce them in different colors. That also, it shows the impact of IT when you apply it on farming, that it could increase with the population. More food can be produced, and they become cheaper rather than being stagnant. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for that, Dr. Madisha. So if we use AI for good, it really would help us to solve our problems. That's the message I'm getting. But this is, yes, it's a very interesting question about the world population, because there must be different models out there that show what would happen if populations decline in certain countries. What will be the overall effect? It's quite interesting. We've grown up with this idea that there are too many people in the world and we have to decrease populations so that the world population can be fed. And yet, it seems that it's not entirely true that the world population will increase infinitely. It will stabilize and decrease at some stage. In the meantime, however, we do have to eat. Let me go back to Guy's presentation and ask you some questions from that. Oh, Guy Midgley, you are back. We didn't see you in the attendees list. There you are. Apologies for that. Have you been waiting long?
I'm sure there are no questions.
So the question we've had so far was, what about the world population? It's supposed to be rising to 9 billion. And what are you actually saying to us? And then Dr. Madisha has talked about being able to produce food for everyone. and said that countries that are using AI are able to produce enough food for their people, because we've just had a presentation about how to use AI productively to solve some of our biggest problems.
Well, I'm sure AI, well, just to answer the last question, I'm sure AI is going to help, but you can't eat digital information. Ultimately you've got to produce physical material. It's like you can't eat money, which is why people say we've got to invest. We've got to let business succeed in order to save the world. So we've got to destroy the world to save it. But no, the issue of world population is that it's a population growth rate that is plummeting, and in fact, the vast majority of countries around the world are not at replacement. It's really only in Africa that countries are at replacement and above, and they're falling fast as well. So the 9 billion, I would very much doubt that we'll get to 9 billion. In fact, it looks as though China's population may have been overstated.
Yeah.
And it's very unlikely China has a 1.4 billion people. It's probably got more like 800 million people. And well, they've lost about 100 million due to COVID.
Yeah.
But if you look at the population of China and India in 1990, and you apply the known fertility rates, you can get India's population right today, but there's no way you get China's population right. So if you apply just ordinary demographic modeling to 1990 numbers with the known fertility rate in China, given the one-child policy, you don't get even 1 billion people in China. And the reason it's wrong is because there's so many incentives by Chinese authorities to misrepresent the population. They get funded, they get subsidized by population numbers. Look at the number of schools that are closing in China. Look at the cities that are being imploded. Look at the collapse of the property market. It's all over. No, I don't think we're going to get to 9 billion people on the planet. There's very little doubt in my mind that we won't. And the social trick is that once population rates start declining, for some reason, and we don't really know why, maybe because kids are brought up in one-child families or small families, nuclear families, and they essentially we seem to lose the capability or the desire to have big families. It's a cost. Before the Industrial Revolution, children were very valuable because they help to look after parents, they labor, they do all sorts of things. In the modern age, children become very expensive pets, and in an urban setting. It's not I'm stealing that from somebody else. I think it was Peter Zion. And so that it gets entrenched. And once you've entrenched a dropping population, dropping fertility, it's it. You're done. Demography is destiny. So I don't think the world has got a problem with running out of people. That's really the essential issue. And so I don't think we're going to get we're not going to get to 9 billion people. No ways.
Very interesting. Simiso, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I'm happy that guy is back. It's the same Marty. I'm the Marty too. So let me just put this thing like this. Like, let me just not generalize the natural resources. Let me just say the arable land that is meant for agricultural production to feed people. So right now, let's just say the projections by the UN are correct. So how we then go about ensuring this equitable balance? Because as far as this is concerned, we have around 170 million people who are living in hunger already. So, but when the projections are correct, let's just say the growing population by 2050 is 10 billion. How then we ensure that the arable land that is designed for agricultural purposes, people are building their settlement there. So now we are moving, faster and faster, because at the end of the day, we have just to feed our families, food for livelihood. We have just to do businesses. Industries are extending their operations. How then we ensure this equitable balance? Because the predictions might be correct. So, and on the general reasoning. So how then we ensure that this arable land that is designed for agricultural purposes is managed, and while there is this growing population?
It's a good question. Look, arable land is extremely valuable. And arable land, as I said, the story of agriculture is a story of fertilizer and irrigation. That's the only way that we have. That's how we were able to make this niche shift, was through inventing fertilizers and irrigation. It's a technical leap forward, and then some other, the Green Revolution, etc. But if you look at if you look at health patterns across the world, half the world is obese, while a portion of the world is undernourished. There's no question that we produce way in excess of the food that's needed to feed the global population, way in excess. If you look at food waste alone, it's extraordinary how much food is wasted. And the issue shifts away from production is not the problem. It's distribution, and that's your equitability issue. Where does equitability come from? Where does equality come from? Well, inequality is a policy choice. It's a government policy choice. Why do I say that? Because the way to reduce inequality is to tax appropriately. If you undertax the wealthy part of your population, then more and more resources accrue to that part of the population. And a lot of those resources become unproductively employed. It gets stashed away, buys gold, buys Bitcoin, and all that sort of rubbish. Whereas if you properly tax as a government and redistribute, that's the purpose of taxation, is to redistribute resources. Read the work by Thomas Piketty, the French economist who wrote a book a few years ago on this issue. In South Africa, what was our most recent tax decision? To raise VAT. That's a tax on the poor. It's a tax on the middle classes. It's ridiculous. This is not a progressive tax. It's a regressive taxation. So we're pretending that somehow, we aiming for more equality. We're not. The policies don't support it. Keeping interest rates high. Who's that good for? Not the middle classes. Why do we have such a low inflation target? It's rubbish. It's to protect the wealth of the rich. This is, come on, colleagues. This is why we don't teach economics correctly. And that's why we're pushing students into the world who just vomit up the previous, the information from the previous generation. Come on. Anyway, so equality is a policy choice. Giving thousands of people little grants to keep them going is a trap. It keeps them in a poverty cycle. This government is making, many governments around the world are really making decisions that are much worsening inequality. And there are many ways to turn it around, but it's difficult, man. It's it's difficult. Yeah. I hope I'm not being too provocative, but it really gets under my skin, actually. Mm-hmm. Good question, though. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Guy, how do you see the feeding of the world population? So you say on the one hand, there's a carbs trap. We're trapped in a carbon diet, carbohydrate. A diet, but at the same time, there is inequality of distribution. I mean, obviously, the governments have a lot to answer for. But how do you see the production of food for the world population, say for Africa, where we don't have a declining population?
Well, we've got vast rangelands which very sustainably produce meat products. We live on chicken. Chicken's very popular in Africa. You can produce chicken, which is very healthy food in very high densities. I think that I'm not an expert on it. You can use much more of the materials. You don't have to package them up into such nifty little packages and sell them in Woolworths. I think through localization, it gets a bit easier. And then high tech. We don't know where high tech's going. Maybe we're going to start producing meat-like food, which is much more healthy, using high-tech methods. I'm not sure. But what big ag and big pharma are doing is they kind of work together in a way, in that by hooking everybody on high-carb diets, you sell billions in diet pills, you sell billions in heart medication, you sell billions in all sorts of drugs to control, to sort of treat the so-called symptoms, health symptoms of a bad diet. But the bad diet is designed and tuned to maximize our dependency to maximize the, it's called this, I don't know what the food industry calls it, but to find the peak bliss taste of food is a big issue in modern food production. And that hooks us. The most deadly combination of food is sugar and fat. Milk tat or cook's sister. That is a deadly combination. If you feed that to rats, they'll eat themselves into a stupor. So food, sugar and fat were never mixed in our paleo diet, ever. But when you stick them together, it's deadly. So look, I think, we've got to step back and with a paleo understanding of the world, figure out how to make the world better. I don't have the answers yet, but I can tell you a high carb, high veg diet is not the answer. It's a health disaster. We're not designed to eat vegetables. In fact, we've developed the liver and various things to detoxify the vegetables that we eat because they're not really what we should be eating. But look, this is very provocative. I know I'm being extraordinarily provocative, but there's a lot of information out there. If you start really delving into it, it's very, very interesting. And at least let's talk about it properly and not just fall into line with the accepted wisdom on a number of issues. I think we're being hoodwinked by in a number of different ways, and it's a job of universities to ask these questions. Universities have to be dangerous places because we deal in ideas, and ideology is the most dangerous thing out there. So we should be like that, and I'm prepared to go out there a little bit and get the next generation thinking about these things. I'm not saying anything is right, but let's get it out in the open and think about it at least.
I appreciate your provocation, Prof. I appreciate that you want us to get us thinking about these things. I must pin my colors to the mast and say that I don't agree with you on the diet issue. But this is not my platform. I have to say,
I'd love to exchange ideas.
Well,
look, I'm not a Tim Noakes, but
glad to hear that.
There's a lot of interesting information out there, and I must say, as I've delved more and more into our paleo history as a species, it's suddenly, the lights are starting to go off all over the place. They go on all over the place. The iodine deficiency, the omega-3 deficiency. Where does that come from? It's the fact that skins lightened in the Northern Hemisphere once we started eating grains because we lost the vitamin D. It's not about latitude. It's about vitamin D loss. That's why those Africans who developed food in Turkey had to lighten their skins in order to take up vitamin D. A lot of things start to fall into place in terms of understanding our evolutionary history. And you've got to join the dots.
But the implication of iodine deficiency is that we ate seafood, and we are lacking seafood.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the same with omega-3.
Yes, and omega-3.
We're a semi-marine ape. That's really what.
I will agree with that. Okay, let me see what other people are saying. Mariam Rumani says, fascinating views, Guy. Thank you for the reflections. It's definitely an alternative perspective. Let's see. Would Professor Midgley suggest we teach, what would you suggest we teach our school children? What is one or two topics that you would consider non-negotiable in a contemporary national school curriculum?
Gosh, I love that
Here's
question.
one for you.
That's a gut punch. Wow. Well, wow, that's a really tricky one. Kids get excited by big ideas. I think understanding our place in the world in a different way is very exciting for kids. So teaching the evolution of human dominance of the planet and how we migrated, how we colonized the world. I think it's just a lovely, fascinating story, and tying up with the idea that the climate that we have now has not always been the climate around us, that this world changes radically and may not be a friendly place unless we take care of it. Those are the big questions that children need to understand. It's in our hands. We're now a dominant species, and we can shape the world in different ways. That's a very empowering message, but it's got to be done very responsibly. We don't have an operating manual for planet Earth yet. It's the Earth system scientists that are writing that manual, quite unwittingly. I think we need it. The IPCC does that kind of work. But that's the way I see it, that we need an operating manual for this planet. It's a multilateral process. All countries have to do it. That's the purpose of Earth system science. It's one of the most important sciences we have. And every country has to produce Earth system sciences so we don't get left out. It's critical. So I would teach kids Earth system science to understand it.
That is 4 things. And I think that's wonderful. I agree with all of them. Right. We have to wrap up, unfortunately. Ronald says, thank you for a great 2 days of insightful content. Someone says gastric intolerances have rocketed parallel with the evolving of industrial agriculture post-World War I.
As if mental health issues. There's a new field called nutritional psychology. Go and have a look. Jessie Chappis, UK, the most investigated UK doctor out there. But she's right.
Very interesting. Yes, I've heard that it's the gut genome, the gut biome has a lot to do with that. And of course, that's directly linked to diet.
Precursors of dopamine, serotonin, it's all there.
Right.
You can fix your health through diet in many, even cancer. Cancer feeds on sugar.
Very interesting. Stephanie Scooter says, we do not have enough land to grow animal feed so that people can eat more meat. Thank you, Stephanie.
There are hundreds of thousands of hectares of ranges, millions.
But we don't have water.
They get water from the food. You know, we've got lots of water. I mean,
that's interesting. We need another discussion forum.
There are semi-arid lands that are well watered enough to produce animals. I mean, the problem is that countries like Botswana are suffering because the Northern Hemisphere doesn't want to import their meat anymore, because now eating meat is unhealthy. It's rubbish.
I think there's still enough meat eaters, though. That's interesting.
There are enough meat eaters, thank goodness.
Ron says we have lab-grown meat. Indeed, the lab-grown meat technology is growing. So that will be an interesting space.
I tell you, high-tech, some interesting stuff coming. You've got to grow fat as well. It's important.
And Nontombeka says, no omega-3 is mental health problems.
Absolutely. It's because we ate seafood. It's our own ancestors at Mossel Bay. You can see it. Piles and piles of mussel shells. That's where we get our brains from. Man.
Right. So how do we, but we're depleting our seafood. So we're really in between a rock and a hard place.
Have you seen mussel production in high production areas? You can do it. It's extraordinary. Mechanized mussel production. Look, we don't farm the ocean yet. We farm the land. I mean, we live on planet farm, but we still harvest the ocean in very primitive ways with nets.
Right. Yeah.
But salmon farming also hasn't been a great success yet.
Right.
Destructive.
In the Q&A, there's also some extra...
Listen, I'm just throwing out answers here just to be provocative. So just for, because we need to debate, you need to have a bit of fun as scientists as well.
Okay, that's not relevant. You've spoken about the school children. A question for Rolf Mitchley, if he returns. Is it not a good thing for the environment if the world population declines?
Well, Danny Dorling argues it's good for people and the planet. Absolutely. Then we could refine, but the problem is you've got to have more children. The whole purpose of living is to do it again. We can lose that. But I think we're over the hump and we're heading down towards, the light at the end of the tunnel is there. But our problem now is that so much energy is going to support AI that's the next thing. It's using more energy than most countries. So how are we going to? So it's a continuous problem. It's always something else, and it takes. So we've got to keep solving problems. We're always going to have to keep solving problems, no matter what.
Exactly. Yes.
That's why university will never not have a reason to exist.
Good. Yes, I'm afraid AI isn't going to think.
Well, AI can't think like us. AI is digital. Our brains are not digital. Our brains are analog. Yeah. It's a completely different system. Our brains use a fraction of the power of AI. I have 1 million thoughts a day. If AI were to do that, it would, our brains work about 6,000 times more efficiently than any AI. That's our advantage. It's a biological system. Come on, we're way ahead of AI when it comes to, it's digital. We're analog. We're much more. We just don't have as good a memory, most of us. AI's just got a really, really good memory. That's it. And it puts together well, synthesizes well. But AI, if you put all the music AIs together, they'd never create another Led Zeppelin.
No.
They'd be able to do it, or a Beatles, or whatever. Hugh They're individuals. That's the beauty of being human, is that we're unique. AI is not unique, it's just average.
Exactly. It's exactly average. Yes. It averages everything it finds.
We'll always have a role as humans because we're unique, each one of us. So that's amazing.
It is. Okay. On that note, we probably should end. Thank you very much, Guy Midgley, once again for joining us and for returning to have a discussion, and for your fascinating thoughts. And I really feel like we need another discussion forum at which we can tackle all of those issues that you've raised.
I'm giving a talk at NSTF with the NSTF group on what is it? Anyway, similar sort of issues. Yeah, how humans dominate the planet. Niche shift, how humans dominate the planet. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Is
I'll
that
send it around.
recorded?
Francesco, it'll be recorded. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's going to be.
Will you send us a link?
I haven't got the date yet. I've just submitted the title yesterday.
Oh, I see. It's still coming. Okay.
It's still coming. Yeah. I've got a talk on the internet called "We're Warming the World Out of an Ice Age. What happens next?" If anyone wants to go, and got a few other ideas in it. Cool.
Great. I'll have a look at that. Thank you very much.
I'm on a mission. Thanks so much for the platform. I really enjoyed it, and lovely questions as well. Really clever.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. Bye.
Cheers, Yancy.
Bye, everyone. Remember to complete your surveys so that we know what you thought of these 2 days, and look out for the media release in your inbox.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Edna. Thank you. Thank you to our presenters, if there are any more of them still present. Thank you very much for your input over these 2 days and making it such a rich discussion. Keep well. Have a good day. Bye.